name is Joanne Diamond, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin counties. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any candidate. In presenting candidates' forums, it is our goal to provide opportunities for voters to become better informed about the people who are running for public office. This forum is being recorded to be replayed on Pasco City Television, Channel 191. It will also be available for viewing on YouTube, but I just was informed that that's not going to happen tonight due to technical difficulties, excuse me. The races we choose to feature in a primary forum are the ones with 3 or more candidates. This time around, that means we will be hearing from the candidates who are vying for the at-large position 7 on the Pasco City Council. I would now like to introduce Tracy Dial, news anchor for KNDU-TV, who will be our moderator. Tracy moderated both our Kennewick and Richland forums during the last 2 weeks, and we are grateful to have her with us again tonight. Tracy?
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. It's nice to see so many friendly faces and community leaders, and I can't wait for us all to become more well-informed voters this evening. So let's begin. We'll be using the following format. Each candidate may make a 2-minute opening statement. We'll then move to a question and answer period with a 1.5 minute time limit on those responses. All 3 candidates will answer the same questions, alternating who gets to go first. We have prepared questions, but we're also taking written questions from the audience, so if you have any of those, please just lift them up and one of the League of Women Voters members will pick them up. We'll then have 1.5 minute closing statements. Now, candidates, I would point out our timer to you right up front. You just saw her up here. She'll be holding up a sign when you have 15 seconds left to speak. You do not have to finish right away, but please do try and finish your thought at that time in a timely manner. So let me introduce the candidates who are here tonight vying for a place on the Pasco City Council, position 7. They are Zara Roach, Patrick Gettner, and Abel Campos. For simplicity's sake, the candidates are being addressed to begin with by the order in which they filed to run. So let's begin with Ms. Roach. Your 2-minute opening statement, please.
All right. Good evening. My name is Zara Roach. I'm running for Pasco City Council position 7. And I want to thank you all who are here in the audience for being here, for educating yourself and being informed on your candidates. And thank you to the League of Women Voters who puts this on every year. I'm running for Pasco City Council because frankly, I think I'm the best person for the job. Pasco's my home. I love it. I was raised here. I'm raising my own children here. I've served the city of Pasco. I've served the students and the parents of Pasco, since I was 20 years old. Currently, I serve on the Pasco Planning Commission, and I have for the past 8 years. First as Planning Commissioner and currently as the chair. I want to work to make Pasco stronger. That is my campaign slogan, Pasco Strong. And what I mean by Pasco Strong is that Pasco has an opportunity to strengthen its economic development. I believe the first part of making Pasco stronger is preserving our commercial land. Over 4 years ago, I took a stand on the Pasco Planning Commission to do just that. I made it a point to fight recommendations that would allow our commercial land be rezoned to housing. We need our commercial and our industrial land to drive our economy and meet our potential as a city. Last year, the City Council asked the Planning Commissioners to make a recommendation to the comprehensive goals. The comprehensive goal is a document that the City Council comes up with every 10 to 20 years. I'm proud to say that City Council took my recommendation to retain the commercial land in our city, and they put that in their top 5 goals. My priority is to serve the people of Pasco. I have done so because that's the example that has been set before me by my parents, and it is now the example that I set for my children. I want to be able to hand Pasco off to the next generation in a better way than I found it. And I will take all that I have learned as an educator, as a board member, as a resident, as a mother, as a planning commissioner, as well as along with the value of putting others before self, and bring that to
Ms. Roach.
City Council. May I finish my statement?
Then I think we have to add more time for the rest of the
That's
candidates.
fine. When I say that the people of Pasco are my priority, I mean that. Those are not just empty words. I've been knocking on doors since July 6th. My campaign and I have knocked on 1,700 doors since Sunday. The way to get the community involved is not by sending newsletters or emails. It's by going to their doorstep and having the humility to ask them, what are your concerns? And what could we be doing better? The people of Pasco stand to attain a good leader in me, one that is connected with them. That leader, if you choose, would be me, Zara Roach. Thank you.
Moving forward, if our candidates could stick to the time constraints that the League of Women Voters put forth, I will have our timer use her discretion with how much longer we give our other two candidates. Mr. Gettner, it is your turn.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming and participating in this forum. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum and inviting me. I am running for position 7, and that is the at-large position. It's been held by Mayor Matt Watkins for about 16 years. He's decided to hang his stirrups up. I want to thank Matt also for his long tenure of service to the city. I'm one of the most blessed men in the world. I was born in Tennessee to godly parents. I was educated in the free public school system and the land-grant colleges that are provided. I'm a benefactor of all the freedoms that are guaranteed in our wonderful, wonderful Constitution. The freedom to worship, the freedom to assemble, as we do here tonight, the freedom to vote, participate in the political process, freedom to travel, freedom to run for public office even, and the freedom to travel and to live anywhere. I am running because I feel that my long decades of experience and education in many different areas of professional and community service qualifies me to join the council in a positive manner so that we can make better decisions if we need to. My wife and I have lived in Pasco for almost 20 years. We raised 3 boys here, and we took advantage of all the various organizations and life-enriching experiences that Pasco offers. We realized from the very first, and still do, that we chose the right location in the Tri-Cities for doing so. The city of Pasco, which was founded on September 3rd, 1891, is an almost unique with this diversification of great transportation, education opportunities, business, employment, and quality of life, including a clean environment. And it's on the cusp of becoming an all-American city. Just this past spring, it was selected in the top 20 applicants for all-American city status. I'm sure they'll try again. Third time will be the charm, I'm sure. We are in a tremendous growth mode, and with growth comes challenges. It's not bad if you do it right. These challenges, if we have desirable outcomes, must be met with serious thought, vision, planning, and effort. Things don't happen automatically. My life and work experience, I think, meshes with the decision-making process that will be necessary to make these great policy decisions that are facing the city. We can make it even bigger and better. I look forward to the opportunity of serving you. I do not aspire to hire public office. I'm in it just to help you, the citizens of Pasco, and help this city become better and better. I'm beholden to no special interest groups, corporations, law firms, government entities, or whatever. I'm retired from corporate America, and I work for you. I will work for you as a city councilman. I therefore ask for your vote and help me achieve this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Mr. Campos.
Thank you. I want to first of all thank the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin Counties for hosting this forum tonight. I really appreciate it. I also would like to thank my family that's here with me and supporting me. One is a elementary teacher for kindergarten. Can you believe that? She is a rock star. Another one is serving our country in the military in the Army branch. And another one is approaching his senior year of high school. However, he's doing the Running Start program, so he likes to say he's a college student, not a high school student. And the other one, the last one, will be attending her first year in middle school with me, and so we'll be heading to middle school together in the fall. I also would like to thank you, the residents, for coming and doing your due diligence to honor your civic duty to vote. I really do appreciate that. Why am I running? Simply put, I love our city. I'm here to serve. And I'm very passionate for this city. Was born here, raised here, and have served in many capacities. For the past 17 years, I've worked for the Pasco School District, and most currently I am a middle school teacher at Stevens Middle School. I'm also a pastor. I'm also commissioner serving with Zara. I've also been a board member and volunteers of many nonprofits addressing gangs, drugs, sex trafficking, homelessness, youth, and kids. And because of all my just service into the community, I was honored in 2016 by Pasco High School, and they gave me the Alumni Hall of Fame. I was really honored by that, and it just really shows how much I love this city and really do value serving it. I really love not only the city, but also the residents. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to be a listening ear to every single one of you. I believe that not one person can have all the ideals and answers and the right decisions, but it's a person that is willing to listen, a person that is willing to take all these advice and come together. You see, my platform is pretty simple. I love unity, and I would really strive and really try my best to make sure that our city stays united. Of course, there is a lot of social issues and a lot of things that we have to do, but I'm a firm believer that if we cannot stand together, we will not stand at all. And so I appreciate not only you guys for being here, but also the fellow candidates that are up here with me as well, because I think all of us, we're all here to serve our city. And I just want to just really tell you tonight that more than anything, look at all of us, see what we're about, do your research, and I would appreciate if you vote for me for City Council.
Thank you. Ms. Roach, you'll go first on the number one question, and we'll begin with an audience question. Our city fees and taxes are increasing annually. What is your plan to stop this?
So this goes, would bring me to my platform, which is my first priority for Pasco is that we implement some smart growth. We have no problem with the population that's coming, and it's steadily going to increase, and we know that. But we have to mitigate that with also developing our economic sector. And the way that we do that, one, is in the way that I said to you before. We keep our commercial land. We keep our industrial land. We make ourselves more attractive to business development. As I said before, Pasco is growing in leaps and bounds. We have real estate developers who'd love to turn our very cheap property into housing. And so we can't forego that for the reason that infrastructure is not supported by property taxes. It's not supported by mortgage taxes. That alone won't be able to keep us afloat. Commercial tax revenue, industrial tax revenue, those are the things that would really help us build out our city. One of the things that I think voters should know is that, sales taxes, I think 8.6%. The city gets back 0.85% of that. It's hardly anything, but that's more sustainable than relying on mortgage taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Mr. Gettner.
There are many sources of revenue that the city takes in. Taxes constitute only about 50% of that. The way to reduce taxes, and they keep going up, mine keeps going up as does yours, is to seek more sources of revenue, just like you would in your own private life. One way to do that is to draw more industry in here, and that's being done. In fact, some industries have been turned away because they don't have enough space in our current industrial park to be here. So that's why the Port of Pasco is looking to open up a second industrial park to draw some of these lucrative family wage paying jobs in here. And if we continue to approach that method, we can lower our own individual taxes. The way not to do that is to have impact taxes or fees. We need to encourage our private enterprise system to create the jobs. We've got the manpower to fill those jobs, and we can increase our revenues best, I think, in that way.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Mr. Campos.
Yeah, I think fees is not a popular thing to discuss. We all want fees to go down, and we all hope that, and they desire to do so. But I also believe it's important to understand that many of these fees do provide services and facilities that our city needs. And as our city continues to grow, we're going to see that we're going to have to provide more services and facilities. However, it doesn't mean we just increase fees just to pay for it and then just say we need these things, so buckle up, citizens, just go ahead and pay. We have to do our due diligence as well to make sure that we lower it. So it's going to have to take a good look at all the different things like impact fees and everything else that is happening. I've talked to certain developers, and that's not very, they're not really excited about that, but they do understand that it's something that needs to be done to address all the things that we need to do in our city. Second one is that we do need industry. We need to provide more jobs so that we could create more income that comes in. We need to use people in the city, go out and get people that have trades for experience and really hire them to maybe build our infrastructure so that the money stays here locally instead of going out and hiring somebody else that's on the outside, and then they go ahead and take their paycheck and go spend it somewhere else. But if we could work together and partner with the different people that are in this community, then we could go ahead and hopefully lower fees, but also bring more money into our city.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. For our next question, Mr. Gettner, you get to go first. Catholic Charities of Eastern Washington is hoping to build a 50-unit apartment building in Pasco to house some of the area's most vulnerable populations, those who have been homeless for more than a year. Would you be supportive of such a project, and do you think it would be good for Pasco?
Most definitely. It really excites me when I see private business take over what otherwise government has to do. Now, here is the Catholic Charities. I heard their presentation at the City Council meeting. They got some good ideas, but they're not the only ones that offer this solution to homelessness. We've got some other ways to do that too. The homeless problem is not as serious as it is, say, in Los Angeles, where there's 59,000 people that are homeless, but it is a problem, and we will have to plan for it. The other sources of help on this, Quicken Loans has established a program with the city of Phoenix, for example, to build homeless shelters for the homeless veterans. This is another example of private enterprise taking over what government has normally done in the past. We have a great opportunity to facilitate this type of effort with people like Catholic Charities and others like that to help solve this. But remember that will not be the end all of the homeless problem. They will address most of it, but not all of it. And with the Catholic Charities, they have proposed a program where the money will not come from the taxpayers of Pasco. It will come from other sources, and that's even better.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Mr. Campos.
Absolutely. I absolutely accept and are hoping that they do get the funding. I believe it's 12 to 13 million that they're seeking to go ahead and build this. It's really important that we understand that we absolutely do have an issue with homelessness in our city. I am fortunate to volunteer for Tri-Cities Dream Center, where they go out once and twice a month, and we go out and we serve the homeless. But more than just simply giving them stuff, we talk to them. And I welcome Catholic charities to just come in, but not only give them a roof over their head, but also give them programs. And talking to the homeless community, they will be the first ones to tell you that the resources are nice, but they also want training. They want to hand up, they want to learn, they want to be able to build on that. They don't want to just be given something, they want to build on that. And so I look forward for Catholic Charities to come in and not only offer a roof over their head, but also the programs that will come with it to build and to really help the homeless community to better their lives in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. Ms. Roach.
Will you repeat that question one more time, please?
Yes. Catholic Charities of Eastern Washington is hoping to build a 50-unit apartment building in Pasco to house some of the area's most vulnerable populations, people who have been homeless for more than a year. Would you be supportive of such a project, and do you think it would be good for Pasco?
So Catholic Family Charities came here to Pasco once before. They built an apartment building on the east side, and I have the ability to say that I voted in favor of that in the past. And I would do so again because they are providing a necessary need for our community. As a planning commissioner, one of the things that I do is take stock of the housing that we have in our community. So in Pasco, 84% of our dwelling units are residential homes. This doesn't fit the need of our entire community. One example that I can give you, and this is not an example of somebody who is stereotypically homeless, but my husband went to get his haircut, and the hairstylist who'd moved here said that she works full-time, her husband works full-time, and they'd been residing in a hotel. And they could not find a rental unit because there's a 97% saturation rate. So that's something that we have to look at as a city, as a planning commission, and say we need more housing in this area, and how can we provide it in a way that accommodates the needs of our people.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. And we have a lot of audience questions, so we might as well use them this evening. Mr. Campos, you get to go first. How can the City Council address the anti-immigrant, anti-Latino sentiment that we see in our political climate today?
Thanks for the question. I believe that we really need to address it first and foremost. It's not something that we can hide and wish that it kind of goes away. The issue of how we could address it is just simply by being honest about it and making sure people are informed. I believe that both sides are sometimes misinformed. Those that are on the side of being scared of being deported, being scared of just maybe not the community being for them, they need to be informed that that is not the case. We do that by communication. We do that by giving them resources, providing classes, letting them know how the real law works. I know that on both sides there's certain disagreements, and we'll have our disagreements and all that different stuff, but the reality is the federal government's going to do what the federal government decides. And as a city, we can't really decide and say, no, we're going to put a foot down and say they can't come in here, but we can provide a safe community, and we could do that by informing them. And so my suggestion is, one, is absolutely communicate with them, do not hide it, but also inform those that are vulnerable, but also inform the other side that there is a city that we love everybody, we want to be inclusive, and we want to make sure that we provide that unity in our city.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. Ms. Roach.
Will you repeat that one more time for me?
Absolutely. How can the City Council address the anti-immigrant / anti-Latino sentiment that we see in our political climate today?
So Washington State, as of right now, is a sanctuary state, and so it's something that would override City Council power. But I think that something that City Council is already doing is having something like an inclusivity commission, and that commission serves to help be a education tool, a recommendation tool, City Council and to city staff about how do we handle issues about inclusivity? How do we handle issues when our citizens are fearful, our residents are fearful that their family might be broken apart, or our students are fearful to go to school. And so we rely on that inclusivity commission to do that. The other thing that I think we can do is that as city councilors is encourage law enforcement to only pursue those cases and those people that have a criminal offense, and not to just blanket all immigrants under that. That would be my opinion on that.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Mr. Gettner.
I guess my idea on this is to overcome that type of bias or whatever, each one of us, I think, should be involved politically and otherwise in our government and so forth. Get involved, for example, in charity work, as Brother Campos is doing here. That will overcome a lot of the so-called ill will that may exist out there. I'm not very familiar with it. I know that there's lots of interaction between many different cultures and backgrounds here in Pasco. I don't see a whole lot of conflict myself, but certainly the way to overcome that is to just get out and mix with your brothers and sisters and strive toward a common goal.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. We're back to you first, Ms. Roach. Another audience question. What is your stance on right to work? Please explain.
My stance on right to work. Good question. So right to work is a law that allows people to, I think I need some clarification on this. Allows people to, unions not to organize. Is that correct? I need a yes or no from, sort of.
What do you think it is?
Well, right to work, what I think it is that I think unions, I think people, laborers should have the ability to organize if they need to. I think that is their right. If there's anybody in here who has ever tried to go to their boss or their supervisor and ask for a pay increase or to help mediate a situation, then they know the difficulty in getting the help in that area. And that's what I think that labor does for people in our local area, for electricians, for construction workers, and for teachers for that matter, is that they help to be that mediation, to be that person, that body that bargains in favor of that individual. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Ms. Roach. Mr. Gettner.
Well, the right to work laws are not in every state. It is in this state, but they are geared toward a person on the job to not have to have mandatory union membership to work that job. This is a contentious issue, particularly with the unions. I can understand that, but still, I think the right to work, whether you're union or not, is a basic freedom that we have in America. You have the basic freedom whether or not to join a union or not. Most people do that work on a union job, but there's always some that don't want to do that, and I think they should retain that right to say no.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Mr. Campos.
Thank you for that clarification, by the way. I'm part of a union. I believe in all the unions and what they do, and really support their protection of us and their support of us. But I believe to make that mandatory on everyone is just something that is too far. And so the expectation of forcing somebody to pay a union to keep their job is something that I would be uncomfortable with. And so that's my position on that.
Follow-up question? In the state of Washington, the unions will not give permission for people who want to leave the unions. They passed a law when the Janus decision came down. And so if a teacher wants to leave the union, they have to get permission from the union. They can't just tell their school, I want to leave the union and not pay dues. And I want a reaction to that.
I think we have to stick with the questions at hand, but thank you so much for being an active member of the audience this evening. We do appreciate that. All right, Mr. Gettner, you get to go first on this next question from the audience. If you'd like to write it down, perhaps someone would pick it up for you. This one did come already. What are your plans to address the methamphetamine and fentanyl issue facing our communities today?
Well, there's an article in the paper today that our fentanyl deaths are rising here, even in the Tri-Cities area. Fentanyl, as you probably know, is 100 times more powerful than methamphetamines. It's almost like committing suicide. The national issue, of course, involves the pharmaceutical manufacturers of these drugs and so forth. There's being some efforts made on that. Locally, I don't know how much we can do, like from a city council standpoint, on preventing or even mitigating this particular issue. In many cases, it's an issue with the doctor and the patient. In many issues, it's just it's a choice of the person taking these type drugs. I know there's been a tremendous education program in this country for many years about the dangers of drug use. I've seen what drugs do over long term. I'm old enough to see what happens even with long-term marijuana use. So it boils down to an individual right to do this or to do it such that it affects the rest of the population. It's a personal choice, but yet certainly there are some social consequences to these choices. And at some point, even city council may have to enact some ordinances to see if we can mitigate this problem.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Mr. Campos.
Yeah, it's a big issue that we're seeing in a lot of the bigger cities, and it's not just the big cities, it's also coming to all the cities in our nation, including our own. Drugs is something that personally, person can choose to do so or not. However, when it becomes an issue in the city, it introduces a whole bunch of other issues within the city. For instance, if you look at Seattle and the documentary that was done in Seattle, they would tell you that most of the drugs puts in so much other stuff like homelessness and crime and everything else. And so as a city councilman and as people that we have to look at that and not just see it as a drug issue, but also see it as a social issue. And what are we going to do to hold that back? Part of it's going to be by education. I'm a teacher, so I'm big on education and informing people and also providing resources so that we can go ahead and do that. And also the other thing is the shared needles thing. What are we going to do with that and how are we going to look at that? We have to know that drugs is not just drugs. It introduces a lot of other issues that comes to our city, and so we have to make sure that we address that.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. Ms. Roach.
Will you please repeat that question for me?
Absolutely. What are your plans to address the methamphetamine and fentanyl issues facing our communities today?
So one thing that I do in my daily life and my personal life as a mother is I talk to my children about this in general. They're young, so I start there as a parent and talking to them about the damage that drug use causes and the health risk that it causes. When I used to be a teacher, I was a high school English teacher. I'd have to talk to my teenager, adolescent students about dissuading them from using things that negatively affect their health, that affect their brains. I think this is something that it can't be figured out with just one avenue or one path. It's something that would have to be attacked from the home front, with families, at school, with education of children, from their teachers, from their health teachers. But I also think from a city perspective or a county perspective, what we could do is have education around our public health departments in the community, because these are things that are still pretty new. The use of fentanyl, the way that it is now, is fairly new, and people don't realize how addicting and how lethal it can be. And so that's the first thing that we can do to combat it, is by educating people to its lethalness. Thank you. Oh, the other thing that law enforcement, ambulance, EMT, emergency rooms can do is to carry Narcan to reverse those effects.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Mr. Campos, final question for the evening, and you get to go first. Pasco has been in the running the last 2 years for the All-America City Awards. What do you see as Pasco's greatest strength, and how can the city build on that strength moving forward?
Well, we all know that we are already an All-America City, and we're very proud of it. Just look at what we've accomplished in so much time. I think we have not only embraced not only our culture, but also have advanced so much with our jobs and our market and being able to advance all the different things that we have. I think that most importantly, we've also have risen from a lot of stuff that has maybe happened to other cities that has really pulled them down. And we're not going to go into what, but our city has gone through a lot. And we have been able to address those situations, and we've been able to pull them through. And it comes down to the city staff, our executive staff, our city council, our people who work in nonprofits and local, and just coming together and supporting one another. It's so easily now, we live in a society time to where it's so easy to divide. It's so easy to pick differences and to choose and draw that line. But I think what we've done well in our city is we've been able to, despite our differences, to stay strong, to stay together. We appreciate our culture. And we are still trying to figure out what our culture is. And we're gonna have to decide as a city is what are we going to show the 50,000 residents that will be coming in 20 years, who is Pasco and who we're about. And so I think that showing that the unity and appreciating one another is our biggest asset. And no doubt we will win it next time.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. Ms. Roach.
So I think if I were to get to go with the group that got to go to All-American City and speak about my city, my hometown, what I would tell them is that Pasco is a beautiful place in Eastern Washington that is unlike the rest of the state. It's this little diamond in the rough where we have the confluence of the Columbia and the Snake River. And it's gorgeous to see those two bodies of water at sunrise in the morning. We have connectivity of our bikes and our bike paths for people to enjoy and take in the natural beauty, to be able to enjoy the recreation. One of the things that I think that we also do well, besides just enjoying our natural beauty, is that we're evolving as a city. We're evolving with these growing pains. And we have a unique situation where we're one of the top fastest growing cities in the state. And it's not easy to, roll with those punches, but we're doing it, and we're doing it with grace, I think. I think that it is commendable what the current city council has done, and city staff is that they're doing a good job, and they're accommodating this growth. I would also say that we have gorgeous sunsets, amazing harvest moons. I think that we have awesome, temperate weather, lots of sunny days, and how can you go wrong with that? Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Mr. Gettner.
Well, many years ago, friends and I were talking about Pasco and the Tri-Cities in particular, and we all agreed that one of these days people are going to discover this area. And now they have, and here they come. And why do they come? Well, for example, one thing is affordable housing. That's one of the reasons I came here. I didn't know where to live when I came to the Tri-Cities 20 years ago, but I found that this affordable housing they were building just west of the Lowe's over here was just what I was looking for. And also we found out that we had an excellent transportation system. We got bus service, we got Amtrak service. We have airline service anywhere in the United States with only one stop max usually. We have a community college that is just a gem of our community. We have Tri-Cities Wazoo here close by. The opportunities for raising a family here are just incredible. The educational opportunities, the opportunities that my boys experience, scouting and 4-H and all this kind of stuff. And they can finish 2 years of college at CBC on the Running Start program, which they all three did. And then the employment, there's lots of employment here. This is really the place to be. We're one day's drive from 7 national parks. We have all kind of natural beauty around us. We have a wonderful, diverse community. People are friendly and nice and courteous. And it's just, to me, a vibrant place. And it's a place where there's, we're on the move. And I just want to see that continue.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. It's now time for closing statements. Once again, these are 1.5 minutes. And Ms. Roach, you're first.
I promise not to exceed my time. That's what I'll say first. Excuse me for doing that earlier. I would like to say that I serve on a nonprofit board. It's called the Children's Developmental Center. And one of the things that we do on that board is we try to diversify our talent pool. And if any of you serve on boards or commissions, you know that that's an important piece of having a well-rounded leadership approach. And so this nonprofit is the lead agency here in Eastern Washington for serving kids who have disabilities. They provide therapies. And one of the things that I can tell you about that part of my life, about being a teacher, is that there's no personal or financial gain, there's no position that can replace the feeling, the intrinsic reward that I receive when someone says, I really appreciate what you do, this service that you do. And I think that that is a fundamental requirement for a civil servant, is to put service before self and put others before self. And I believe that I am that person for the city of Pasco. I've had that record of experience here, and I want to share that with you all. If there are any other questions that I haven't been able to answer for you, you can talk to me afterwards, or if you're watching, zararoach.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Mr. Gettner.
Well, it's certainly an opportunity to run for political office here in Pasco. It's like joining a winning team. And, to stay on top, you've got to work just as hard as you do to get there in the first place. And I want to be part of that. I have a lot of skills and skill sets that I think I can use to bear upon the very important decisions that the City Council will have to make in the next few years. On the community service level and civic level, I've been involved in everything from United Way to being a scoutmaster, and also the chairman of a regional planning commission. I know a lot of stuff about local government, and I think I can best use that and give back at the same time and become a councilman in the city of Pasco. I will appreciate your support and vote.
Thank you, Mr. Gettner. Mr. Campos.
I believe our city is in a pivotal time right now as we begin to grow even more as a city, and I would love to have the opportunity to be part of that. The truth of the matter is none of us here up front could do it alone. We need everyone to be involved. And that's the reason why I'm pushing so much, so that everybody does their research and votes, overlooking at some things, looking at District 1, 2, and 6 combined. In the last election, 1,300 voters voted, and in District 3, 4, and 5, 6,900 voters voted. That's a huge difference between West Pasco and Pasco. That needs to change. And I look forward to giving that opportunity to bring that together, to bring the city together. I may not be the smartest IQ person, but I really am high in the EQ person, meaning emotional intelligence, being able to push my own agenda aside and coming together for the betterment of good. And that's my hope. My hope is that I can help our city continue to be the great city that we know it could be. And so I want to do the best for what is good for the city and best for its residents. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campos, and thank you all three of you for being here today. I have to say this is probably the most lively forum that we've had over the last couple of weeks, and you had some tough audience questions. So good job this evening, and thank you everyone else for coming. We do want to say thank you to John Funfar, Bob Kreider, and Mark Charbonneau. Mike, he's listening in the truck. Mike Charbonneau for doing the audio and video for this tonight, and you can watch it on YouTube after the fact. Make sure that you get your ballot in. Those have been sent out, and the primary election is coming up on August 6th. Don't forget to vote. Remind your friends and neighbors to vote as well. Thank you all.